All right, everyone. So we got a betting preview here for the Rams versus the Eagles, and this is one of the most exciting games of Week 3. We have two teams that played in the playoffs last year. The Rams played the Eagles about as close as anybody did in the playoffs, and the Rams had a really good shot to win that game. You think about how the history of last season would have been changed. Well, if one guy was blocked properly, if the ball was put in maybe just a little bit of a better spot, if a catch is made, we might have seen the Rams actually beat the Eagles. And that's how close things go. So we're as we always do, we're going to give you an argument for both sides and then give you our play. So the first thing we'll look at the Rams are 3.5 point underdogs. Total for the game is 44.5, and the money line is plus 150 for the Rams. Now, the first thing I put on my notes about why the Rams can cover this game is what I just mentioned. Look, they played the Eagles about as tough as you can last year, and I think they have really all of the needed ingredients to beat the Eagles. And I think when you look at Matthew Stafford, who I was very, very worried coming into this year with what was going on with his back and all of that, that this Rams team would not be very good. They have kind of dispelled those rumors very, very quickly. They've played two good games so far. Stafford has looked fine. You still have Puka, and I just think this is a team that they give the Eagles some issues. And I understand they're on the road here, but when we look at how they've played against them, I think there's a very good chance, especially when we're getting 3.5. This isn't 2.5. This isn't 1.5. This is 3.5. I think that gives us a chance, even if the Eagles find a way to squeak out this game, that they could still win. I understand the two wins for the Rams are the Texans and the Titans, but at the end of the day, I think this is a team that can come out and impress. Um, the second part of this is the Eagles haven't really played well yet. I understand they beat the Chiefs, and I'm not taking away from those wins. But if you look at their game against the Cowboys, you look at their game against the Chiefs, both of those games were kind of like you could have seen them losing them, right? At major points in that game. And against the Cowboys, that really all came down to CeeDee Lamb dropping the football. CeeDee Lamb makes some catches, the Cowboys win that game against the Chiefs. I don't know if it's 100% they're going to win, but if Travis Kelsey brings in a catch that he makes 9 times out of 10 and it isn't picked off, the Chiefs may go ahead and win that one as well. So I think we're looking at what the Eagles have done so far, and I don't think the Rams have a great resume to this point. Right, beating the Titans and the Texans aren't really necessarily impressive wins, but I think so far from the Eagles, we just haven't seen them look all that great. The Eagles, the reason I think they could cover this game, well, they're at home, number one. I think that's a huge, huge boost to flip the argument over, right? The Texans aren't really that great of a team. The Rams only were able to beat them 14-9. I understand that Texans have a great defense, but still, you would have wanted to see a little bit more. And they were able to beat the Titans 33-19. But still, once again, that's another game where as good as they looked, you just can't take too much from that at this point. So we really have two teams that I think we don't know a whole lot of. The reason why I'm worried about the Eagles is because they really just did not look good in their two games. But the Eagles are at home. They're playing a Rams team that we still have a lot of questions about. And this Rams team can simply be hit or miss. Look, they're relying a lot on Matthew Stafford. They're relying a lot on Puka. You still have Devontae Adams. You go down the list, but this is going to be a tough, tough task for the Rams. And if the Eagles get that run game going, if Jalen Hurts can, get AJ Brown, Devonta Smith involved, and this defense can make life miserable for Matt Stafford, then I don't love the spread on the 3.5, but you can see the world in which the Rams, they're just unable to score enough points, and the Eagles are kind of dominating time of possession, running the football, and hitting AJ Brown and Devonta Smith when needed, right? So my bet in this game is going to be the Rams plus 3.5. And the reason for that is I just have a lot more trust in what I've seen from the Rams than I have with the Eagles. And part of this is due to the fact that we're getting this 3.5. Meaning, if we were talking about a pick 'em game here, where the Eagles at home were a pick 'em against the Rams, I would be heavily considering going with the Eagles. If this was 1.5, I would heavily consider going with the Eagles just because we've seen them in their ability to pull out these close games. And I could see a world in which that happens. But when we're talking about 3.5, we're really limiting our options for us seeing an Eagles win. The only way I really see them covering this 3.5 point spread is if they're, really putting a beat down on the Rams, meaning this is on the board of that Eagles defense, those front guys there. getting to Matt Stafford, sacking him. He can't get a rhythm, and the Rams never get rolling. And the Eagles just pound the defense. Saquon. Jalen Hurts run, and then maybe a shot over the top if needed. Right? I could see that world, but that's really the only world I see in the Eagles winning and covering the spread. Everything else, I see. Yeah, if the Rams keep this thing close, we may not get a Rams win, but we might get that Rams covering of the plus 3.5, which in this case is all that matters, right? We don't care if they win outright if we're getting those 3.5 points. Of course, the Rams could be up a field goal, Eagles score a touchdown, they cover the spread. That's another world in which this thing covers. I just don't see that being the case in this game. I really think this is going to be one of those games where the Eagles are up three. The Rams have the ball. The Rams are driving down the field, and they either tie the game with a field goal or they take the game winner, or they don't even get to the field goal range, right? But my point is, in that scenario where we have three options that could happen, right? A 4 and out and they don't get it, a field goal which send it to overtime, or a touchdown in which they win the game. We cover two of those three scenarios. Versus on the flip side, I think the only way we're really covering for the Eagles here is if they really blow out the Rams. And I just don't see that yet. But this is going to be a telling game. I think this is going to tell us a lot about both teams. If the Rams get demolished, well, I'm going to be a little bit more, hey, my preseason predictions were correct on this team. If the Eagles lose this game, I think there's going to be a lot of question marks on, okay, how good really is this Eagles team? And of course, if the Eagles get demolished, then, there's going to be a lot of questions. So, as we always say, there's no profit guaranteed from this pick. Thank you all for watching, and put in the comment section below what you think. We will see you next time.